Hey everyone, this is Ryan live from Unbound Vision, and today is April 26, 2017. I believe it's Wednesday, and this is the 82nd day of the 6 a.m. to 12 a.m. schedule for anime web series TAKESHI. And in case you weren't aware of what we're working on TAKESHI, and TAKESHI is a dark superhero story set in Osaka, Japan. It is how should I put it? Is a very intense action sci-fi series with a horrific twist on human science gone wrong, and it's going to be quite an amazing adventure. And just the process itself is an amazing adventure. You find all sorts of stumbling blocks along the way, and you find out how to fix them. And you have to make a lot of important decisions, especially when you're leading a team, whether or not to go in certain directions or whether or not this is approved. And even if it is, you're never sure if something's going to work. So you just have to go for it. And whatever anyone else tells you, whether they say this isn't going to work, or people say, well, everything you try is going to fail, it's not true. Believe me, it's not true. The more you try and the more you fail, the better you get at it. And you can't get anywhere without failing. And I really mean it. We fail every single day, but every time we fail, we get a little bit closer to the final product, and it really helps. In terms of our actual progress on the project right now, I have a lot of progress on my end, actually. I've been working on the mercenaries. I've been working on the new suit design for our main heroine, Aki Takeshi. And we've been doing a lot of character designs. We've been doing background refurbishes. We're still in animation testing. By the end of these next couple months, are going to finish the animation testing, and that's going to set the foundation for where we're heading in terms of our animation department. And soon enough, after this semester or so, we're going to be starting the final animation. But in this next semester, which I believe is the summer semester, we're going to be doing, I believe, finishing up the background refurbishes and finishing up our characters and our script and everything else in our storyboards. Most importantly, our storyboards and our animatic. That's really important, because once we have that animatic compiled and finished, we can submit that to our music artist, and she can put it all together and give us a kind of quick preview of the final product, right? Because it doesn't have the full animation. It just has the animatic and the storyboards in it. And it has all the timing in it, and it has all the music in it, and it'll probably have all the voiceover in it. That's another thing. We also have to account for our final voiceover too, and that'll be fairly quick. Luckily, the voiceover doesn't take too long, and we have everyone we need in terms of the voice artists. So that's it for our progress on TAKESHI today. I wanted to address something else today, though, and it was this concept of phobias and fears. And, you're probably asking, well, what does Ryan know about phobias and fears? I know plenty about phobias and fears. And if there's anything I understand about fear, it's a phobia is just a fear that hasn't really been dealt with yet. It's a fear that's been allowed to fester and rot. And it's always in your mind. It's never as bad as you think it is. Your mind keeps telling you that it's bad because you keep focusing on how bad something is versus what you can actually learn from the fear. Fear is a really powerful motivator, but fear can't bring you to success, and I really mean that. If you live your life in fear, you're probably not going to take a lot of action. And I've seen this so many times in both kids, adults, everyone who I see who lives in fear. It's a really horrible way to live, and you go through life feeling completely insecure with yourself, with other people. You don't know what's going to happen versus understanding that things are uncontrollable and you don't have control over everything. And nothing's going to always go your way. You just got to keep going until something good does actually happen. So, a lot of people say, oh, Ryan, you don't understand what it feels like to have a phobia or a fear. And you might be right, and you're probably right. I don't understand what it's like to have a phobia because I've already gotten over a lot of my own phobias. I mean, whether they're ridiculous. I mean, I had a brother who was afraid of arachnophobia, but the more he exposed himself to spiders, the less he grew scared of them. And soon enough, if he saw a spider, he would just, do whatever normal people did. He just, kill it with a napkin, or he just put it outside the house, and, he was terribly afraid of spiders, and then suddenly he wasn't afraid of spiders because he was just He was surrounded him. You can't avoid spiders, right? And that's kind of the metaphor of fear, right? It's always in your head. It's not real. It's not real. All those spiders that you're afraid of, the black widows, whatever horrible creatures you might imagine. Black widows aren't going to hurt you unless you try to hurt them, obviously, right? So it doesn't make any sense why you're so afraid of them, because they're already afraid of you. And that puts things in really strong perspective, right? There's no such thing as fear. Fear is just something that we create in our minds. And the more you face it, the more you actually learn from it, and the more you grow from it. So if you do have a phobia, I really do encourage you to start facing it, whatever it might be. I had a phobia of being alone when I was a kid. I really mean that. I had a phobia of being completely alone. And guess what? I was alone for about 80% of my life when I was a kid, right? I didn't know what to do with myself, so I just started working on myself. I started doing more art. I started reading comics and manga, and I started watching anime, and I started watching cartoons, and you know, it inspired me. And that's part of the reason of why I do what I do, because those little things, when you're alone and you start doing things and you start working on yourself and you start doing more and more and more, and you wonder yourself, wow, you know, being alone isn't such a bad thing. It's actually a really good thing. Even though I was horrendously afraid of being alone, I would always seek company of other people. I would go to other places, other people's houses, and say like, hey, can I hang out with you? You know? But the more I realized that being alone wasn't a horrible thing, the more I realized it was actually not a fear, it was a benefit. Being alone was a benefit because I could do more when I was alone. You know, when you're hanging out with friends who just want to play video games all day or just do random things all day, that's good in its own time. But really, the things you do by yourself and you're lonesome in the dark with only your shadow as your company, those are the moments that really define you. And I really mean it. So I don't fear being alone anymore. Does it feel lonely sometimes? Of course it feels lonely sometimes. But eventually, after people calling you a loner and making fun of you all the time, it's not really a big deal. Because while they're partying, while they're getting drunk and getting wasted, you're the guy who's working, right, by candlelight. It's a bit of a crazy thing, and people look at you and they feel sorry for you, but they don't have to feel sorry for you. And I know you don't feel sorry for yourself either, because the things you do alone matters. And the fear that you had of whatever you had, that fear doesn't exist. It's not real. I promise you, it's not real. It might be real in real life, but the meaning that you attribute to that fear is not real. And I just hope you remember that. And anyway, this video is going on for too long. I didn't mean for it to become a motivational video, but I did want to address this concern of fear in everyone's life. Even if you do or don't recognize it, you should recognize it. And you should tackle it. And you should face it. Because it's going to help you get over it. I really mean it. Anyways, I'm Ryan Lai from Unbound Vision. And I hope you continue to stay inspired. I'll see you guys next time. Bye.